Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to episode 4 of Stress Busters. We're going to get into a little more content today that deepens what we learned yesterday. So I hope you get something out of it. Obviously, if you do and you have questions throughout the session, you can put them in the comments. And if you are watching the replay, then I'll try to get back in today to answer any questions, or when you do get a chance to watch the replay. Remember, this is a no stress zone. So if you don't get to watch it live, or you don't get to watch it the day it broadcasts, you can watch it whenever you want. They're in the video section of our Facebook page. And we are a community of people that want to bust the stress, meaning clear out some of the stressful things in our lives. And to do that, we have to understand a little bit about what stress is doing in our lives so that we're empowered to really fight it when it comes into our existence. So today, I want to share with you a little bit more and just help you understand when you are actually in a stressful situation, what you need to do different. So sometimes there are some subconscious thoughts that trigger that response in us that we don't even know exists. We think that there are those situations when we're upset and we're frustrated, but we also don't realize that there are some situations that we don't even know that we have a memory of. It may be a memory from childhood. It may be a feeling from a situation that you experienced. I shared my silly teenage experience yesterday with you, me and Bernie, or Bernie and I, when we were younger. And honestly, that memory continued to haunt me for years. Not that I knew it was there, but it kept coming up. And it caused so much unnecessary stress from that feeling that I had in that moment, that it would resurface in the words that I would say. I would question things, and obviously, you know, when you question your spouse, things become stressful sometimes, especially when they're like, what are you talking about? That's just crazy. You're crazy. So we had many times like that, and that was because of something that was subconsciously in my mind. In today's episode, I want to go a little deeper with some thoughts from a book called The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He goes a little bit more into the stress response, so much so that he said that when you feel stressed, it's usually you're afraid of something. And that fear can cause us to be dumber. When we are frightened, we can't access the stored information that we have that would help us react in a positive way. So sometimes we act kind of stupid, right? I know that from my own experience. When I have that moment when I can't think straight, you get a little bit frustrated and things just get a little worse, get out of hand. We talked about the hormone that gets released, and he shared how the adrenaline glands coordinate that stress response. So they're actually the coordinator. I know a lot of people talk about adrenal stress, adrenal fatigue, because we are just living in this constant stress, vicious cycle. So our adrenals are getting fatigued and worn out. The first layer of protection is the visceral organs stopping their jobs so that they can respond to the threat that we perceive. And the second layer of protection is the immune system. Bingo! Autoimmune issue here. Some of you are saying, but my stress isn't about fear. I'm not afraid of anything. But if you look deeper, most of what causes us to be stressed ties back to something that we might be afraid of. Maybe not in clarity, like a tiger's running after us and we need to be afraid for our life, but maybe in the fear of not looking good in front of other people, maybe in the fear of not doing a job right, maybe not being able to pay the bills, or maybe not even, like my silly example with the creamer the other day, the fear of not being able to find what I want. So that I can enjoy what I think is a good time for us in the morning. So it ties back to some fears usually. And if you took some time to really understand that, you might be honest with yourself and say, wow, that is possible. It's a perception of pressure that causes us stress. And if you trace it back to that fear, you might be able to stop yourself from reacting in that moment in a dumb way. My immune system is out of whack, and I have spent years trying to regain that balance. But when you think of the immune system being the second layer, and I thought the way he put it was really, really good, because it's the second layer of protection. When we are stressed, we may understand more about why people are sicker. You know, we have a lot of sickness in this world, and because this second layer of protection is our immune system, this might be why that's continuing to happen. Now, there's a lot of other reasons, and there's lots of ways to strengthen your immune system. But if you think about the adrenal hormones coordinating the stress response, and that adrenal hormone is actually suppressing the effects of the immune system so that it can conserve energy while it's trying to fight what we think is our fight, it's not going to be able to protect us from the viruses and the bacteria, all those things that are happening under the skin, because it's actually being suppressed so that it could not do that job, but that it might be able to fight something that's happening in the moment. So think about, have you ever come out of a stressful situation thinking, woo, okay, I'm glad that's over, to find yourself in bed with maybe the flu or a cold? It's because your immune system was suppressed for that period of time when you were under that stress, that it wasn't working correctly. It wasn't able to fight the bacteria, the virus, or whatever, because it was trying to handle the stressful situation. Stress hormones are so effective at suppressing the immune system that doctors actually even provide them to transplant recipients so that their immune system won't reject the foreign tissues. Now that's pretty intense. I mean, if we're going to think about a stress hormone in our body getting released all the time, suppressing our immune system, that's some pretty big proof there. I mean, they are using those stress hormones to help transplant recipients not reject this foreign tissue. They want the immune system to be so suppressed that it won't reject it. And that's exactly what's happening to us on a daily basis. There are two parts of the brain I want to talk about too today, the forebrain and the hindbrain. The forebrain processes information such as executive reasoning and logic, and it allows us to be a little bit, able to process things, but also put into action some steps. Whereas the reflective activity is controlled by the hindbrain. In a stressful situation, the response will affect us from thinking clearly, because the adrenal stress hormone constricts the blood vessels in the forebrain so that the hindbrain can be the source of information, process, respond. So we have this front part of our brain that's used for reasoning and logic, and it's not getting the blood supply that it needs, because this back part of our brain, the hindbrain, is the one that needs to actually respond in the stressful situation. And it helps protect us because we get this perceived pressure, and it kind of knows what to do and puts into action. Imagine reducing the blood supply over and over and over multiple times, and having that blood supply in the front brain being stopped, constricted. That's why Dr. Lipton says we're getting dumber, because that effective reasoning can't be getting the blood supply that it needs to do that part of our job, because it's all back here. So I want you to think of a time when you were last stressed or angry. You might remember not being able to act, in the best way. Well, that's because you couldn't think straight. Your blood flow to the part of the brain that helps you to think more clearly was restricted. We constantly have unresolved worries about our personal lives, our jobs, our community, and causes that elevation of stress hormones. I want you to picture a sprint runner at the line, getting ready to run. Okay. On your mark, get set, go. Now, when they're in the get set phase, that runner's muscles are getting tensed. They're getting prepared for this race. And that preparation is needed because it gives them the energy to go. And that's the same thing that's happening in our body when we're perceiving pressure and wanting to deal with it. Our body gets tense, our body gets ready. We're in the get set mode. Well, for a race, a sprint runner, which obviously most of us are not, that sprint runner can run the race, it gathered the energy it needs, but then it gets to end the race. Well, we're in the get set mode most of the time. We run the race to work, we run the race to the store, we run the race to care for a sick loved one, we run the race and it just never ends. It's race after race. That sprint runner can get set, go, and stop. But when we don't do that in our regular lives, we're always in that get set mode, and the body will take that pressure and suppress the immune system, suppress our clarity and thinking, suppress the blood flow and circulation. All of those body systems are always in the get set mode, and they never get to relax. And that's why we're sicker than ever before. There has to be a built-in rest time when we can say that our race is over for the day. And that's not bedtime. There's so much work that has to happen while we're sleeping in our bodies. It has to be in pockets of the day. We have to recover from those races that we keep running. It's hard to do. I know, at least for me, for years, I couldn't even sit still without reading a book or taking in more information or having a serious conversation with someone or, engaging with the girls in a conversation so that I could, impart wisdom on them for their life, It's very hard to do, to just sit and to rest and recover from the race that you just run. I mean, there are multiple races we're doing daily in our lives, and we have to learn how to recover from those. You have to go, but then you have to stop. And sometimes that may be retraining your mind to believe something different. Dr. Lipton says our hyper-vigilant, that's a pretty powerful way to phrase that. Our hyper-vigilant lifestyles cause us to prime for that run and the next run and the next run. I want you to start asking yourself, why do you keep running from race to race? Okay, why? And remember, this is a journey between all of us. Why are we running from race to race? What fears do we have that actually may cause us to feel like we have to do that? Are they really necessary? Are they even real? Should we be afraid of the outcome if we don't run the race? Should we be afraid? Is that even a real fear? Or did we put it on ourselves to be afraid of that? Through his research, he says that DNA is controlled from the outside of the cell, from the messages that we are sending with our positive and our negative thoughts. Basically, our bodies can be changed as we retrain our thinking. We have to shift our mind's energy towards positive, life-generating thoughts and eliminate those energy-draining, debilitating negative thoughts. And it's more than just positive thinking and putting yourself in good situations. That's a big part of it. But unless you get to the deep part of what you're believing and what you're afraid of, sometimes it's hard to put yourself and accept that you deserve a little bit higher energy and a little more positive energy. Because consciously our mind is creative and can help us make positive thoughts, a lot of us think just being more positive is going to be what works. I should be less stressed, but it's in the subconscious mind that there's a collection of these beliefs that came from instincts and learned experiences. It's habitual, and it can pull you back in, and those patterns will still be there even when you're trying to be more positive. So what do we do in that situation? What do we do? How do we help fix this situation? If we know that subconsciously we have some things that maybe we're afraid of that cause us to be stressed in a situation that really is not a stressful situation, or maybe there are some stresses that we have to deal with, we have to make room and take breaks and remember the end the race so that we can actually see the reasoning and the logistics and figure it out so we can move to a better place where it's not so energy draining. So what can we do? I want you to think in the next stressful situation. I want you to ask yourself, what is the reason that this situation is stressing me out? Why? Why am I feeling this right now? Am I afraid of something? Is the fear even real? If it's not, self-talk to yourself. Retrain your brain to believe something else. When I shared the stupid creamer story and I got stressed out about it, I now processing and going on this journey with you, I realized I was afraid I'll never find this creamer and Bernie and I will not have our coffee time together. Seriously? Is that a real fear? I mean, if it is, then I got to spend some time to retrain my brain that that's not what our coffee time is about. I mean, that's a silly example, but it happens to us all the time. We get a little bit crazy about what we think a way something should be, and then we don't really understand why. We just think, oh, but it's really this silly fear, and until you tell your brain something different, it's going to continue to be stressed over these silly things. If it is a real fear, though, because some things are real. I mean, it is a real fear. If your child runs out into the road, it's a real fear. You have to think, well, is there something different that I can do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Obviously, you save their life, and then you just make sure they don't do that again. I mean, there are some real fears that don't need retraining. They just need some wisdom and how to prevent them from happening, so you're not constantly putting yourself in that situation. And if you can make some changes to those ongoing stresses, as well as work on those beliefs that subconsciously may be affecting how you respond in situations, you're going to have less stress. I hope you got something out of this video episode. Tomorrow I'm going to share 2 methods of meditation that I think can get us closer to understanding our beliefs and releasing some of the control that we think we have, minimizing that stress response that happens because we think we're in control. Remember, the videos are in the video section on Facebook, so if you're not watching live and you're on the replay, then you've probably already found them. But if you ever want to go back and watch them again, or you came in halfway through, they're in the video section of the Facebook page. And I know several of you tuned in today. I see a couple of you. I see a couple of you. I'm not sure what happened there. I might be sideways. There we go. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Are there any questions or comments? I think we got kicked off there for a minute. Do you guys have any questions or comments about today's content? I appreciate you guys tuning in. Yeah, I'm trying to record on the phone today, so it may be where I actually have to go to the Facebook page to see if you guys have any comments. But I saw some new names today, so appreciate that. If you know someone that is having more stress in their life, which is most of us because we're trying to run that race over and over again, add them to our Facebook group. They may not be on it for the 30-day journey where they can really watch the videos every day, but maybe they can catch 1 episode or 2 episodes, and it might give them something to think about. I'm just going on our Facebook page now just to see if any of you are still there live. I see 1 comment. Let me see. Awesome. Gracie, wonderful. Okay, that's from my pinned post. Let me see. Episode 4. Cindy, wonderful. Thank you, Cindy, for being here today. I hope you got something out of it. Carmen, trying to stay focused. I'm constantly being interrupted. Yeah. And that causes stress, right? And maybe really looking at what is interrupting might help a little bit. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have a great day. Sorry if it got kicked off and didn't work just right, but remember to comment at any time, and I will try to answer any questions that you have.